Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Moke and Friends. Today I have a special guest, Brian Fitzpatrick. I don't know where I got that from. Fitzpatrick. How you doing?
Hey, it's all right. It happens all the time. Thanks for
Does
having
it
me.
does it though?
All the time. And that's the one. Fitzgerald is always the one. I don't know why.
Man, I said it before we came on and I don't know what happened.
Hey, no
But
worries.
I want to thank you for joining me. Are you in California?
I am out Southern California.
Oh, so it's always nice out there.
Mostly, yeah. I mean, we had 91 degrees today.
Really, man? I'm in Texas, and we had probably 40 this morning, and ended the day with 80, and now it's probably like 60.
I say now it's going to drop down again.
Yeah. So it'd probably be like, I don't know, 30 in the morning. I don't know. Texas weather is weird, but before we start, could you give me a little information about yourself, a little background?
Yeah, sure. I am an author, a published author. Just released the final book in my trilogy. It's a sci-fi adventure series called Metcraft.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also a screenwriter with several screenplays under my belt. But I got a TV pilot I co-wrote with an actress, and we are shopping that around Hollywood right now. So I'm working every angle I can to make it
Wow.
business. You know, I keep it going, and I do never give up.
Yo, do you have multiple books other than Metcraft?
I do not. I was really dedicated myself to screenwriting for the last 20 years.
Really?
This one script I had, a sci-fi adventure with nanotechnology, and it was, people called it. They said it was like The Matrix meets Harry Potter, and so I was like, well, I'll take that I'll take that review. But it won lots of awards, but no studios were buying it. So a buddy of mine said, why don't you convert it to a novel and get a fan base, and those same studios will come to you to buy it. So I did it, and it ended up being an awesome process. Ended up writing the other two books, and now all three are out as of last week.
And they're in like stores like Barnes and Nobles and things like that.
Yeah, they're mostly online at like, I don't know, 20, 30 places. My publisher really went to town, but they are in store and some indie bookstores and some Barnes and Nobles carrying it in store. I'm working on getting more because for indie authors, kind of Barnes and Noble is the holy grail if you can get them in the store.
Right. Yeah. So okay, let's see. Where would you like to start this at? Because I want to. I know we're pressed for time, and I do want to get into the Metcraft, but I also want to get into your other things. Do you want to start with Metcraft?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Okay. So, Metcraft Trilogy. You released the third installment last week, correct?
Right, last Thursday.
So where does the idea come from? Because I read a little bit on it, and kudos to you because you have a lot of great reviews. You have a really good amount of reviews. I was impressed.
Thanks.
I was impressed.
And that comes from just a lot of engagement with readers, a lot of events, and just getting out there and talking about the book and hoping people like it. And that's my goal. I want to tell stories that people like. And
so what's the story?
So you've got the Metcraft is set in modern day Los Angeles, where there's a secret war going on between three separate warring factions, and all these people are gifted with the ability to conjure from their skin liquid nanotechnology that they are telepathically connected with. Think of the Terminator from Terminator 2, how he was like that liquid metal.
Yeah, T-1000. Yeah.
These guys, these people, these hundreds of people have this in their DNA. These sentient little microscopic robots that bond together and form liquid metal. And these people can summon it out of their skin and make it into weapons or tools or anything they can think of, really. So when they first had this ability through scientific experimentation, they couldn't decide the best way to use it. And that led to a war between them all. But my main character is a teenage boy who was the first ever born with this nanotechnology. And so it throws the rule book out because now everyone's saying, well, everyone else in history in this has had to go through several injections and a very torturous process. Here comes this kid who's born with it. We don't know what his powers will be. And they're all right because he ends up having unique powers that could, throw the war in favor of any one of the factions. So all these factions are after him. And so he's guided by two other older teenagers to get to a safe house. And that's the first book is basically a big chase. It's all about the adventure of him getting to a safe place to see if his parents are still alive and to join sort of the good guys.
And I know that it said that his powers were dormant. So how did he awaken those powers? Like when did he realize that he had these unique powers?
Well, that's the thing with this Metcraft, the nanotechnology somehow connects and reacts with human beings during their adolescence. You know, when we go through teenage years, our hormones change and
Right.
become adult, and for whatever reason, that triggers and awakens the dormant nanotechnology. So one night, the poor kid is just playing video games with his buddy, and all of a sudden he starts having this writhing, horrible pain, and the nanotechnology starts shooting out of him at different parts of his body
Mm,
uncontrollably, and it's a very violent, horrifying experience. So he wants nothing to do with this power
right.
after that. But his parents, who themselves were once in that war, they were two of the lead scientists. They sort of coach him through and say, "Look, you've got this now. So we have to deal with it and get you to a safe house." But the main crux of this whole thing is there's a villain named Sasha who is completely insane and completely obsessed with controlling him, and she has brainwashed her entire faction to be like a death cult,
Mm.
where they think that all Metcraft users need to die, including themselves. So she's on a mission. She's got her whole cult on a mission to kill all Metcrafters and then kill themselves at the end. So she's completely off her rocker, and she's always one step ahead of Jake. Jake is the main character, and she's fun to write because she's so awful.
So was so there was these factions before Jake discovered his powers.
Correct. The factions were around maybe 20 years or so. And then now in our modern times, here comes Jake, 15-year-old boy, and this stuff awakens in him. And he now realizes he's like the unwitting linchpin amongst these three warring factions.
So who was the first to, after he discovered, who was the first to discover him to to make everybody want to I guess get him and get the injections or try to get this power?
Sure. Not to give too much away, but once Jake, the nanotechnology bursts out of him, he is betrayed by a close friend who rats him out to
Mm.
actions in hopes to further himself. And so once the word got out, it was all out war to capture him.
What inspired you to do this?
Oh man, that's a funny story because it's a great, when you read the books, the story is crazy. And it came from one single article I read about medical in the medical community
Mm.
about how in the near future doctors will be able to inject nanotechnology, these little microscopic computers, into cancer patients, and the robots will be programmed to seek out only cancer cells and destroy them, and then go dormant and be flushed out of the body. And I thought,
Wow.
that just blew my mind that they could.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what if those things were like, sentient? What if they are aware and they could, and the person who they're inside, the host, could control them? And I sort of spawned from there. And then I came up with the whole warring factions thing. And now, after 3 books, it's gone completely off the rails.
So what do you mean? Like, you mean like it's just an all-out war now?
Yeah, basically, the first book is kind of letting us, the audience, in on this whole world and through Jake's eyes, because he's new, and it's mostly a fast-paced roller coaster adventure to get him to safety and battle and have it all out battle in front of the safe place.
Mm.
And the second book dives deeper into sort of the history and what makes this nanotech special, and where did it come from? Nobody really knows, and it's a lot of mystery, and but a lot of darker stuff. It's like, if my 3 books were Star Wars, book 2 would be my Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
A lot deeper. And the third book is very much just a big, massive, all-out war, but not what people think it is. It's just complete. It ends everything, and it the stakes are so high.
Is this the last of the story, or are you going to keep going?
Well, that I was going to be the last of the story. I wasn't going to do any more Metcraft, but my publisher, just after I turned in the third book, they said, "Well, so do you have more coming? We want to publish more." So now, at first, I'm like, no. And then about a month later, I wrote him back, said, "Yeah, okay." So I'm outlining books 4, 5, and 6 right now.
So okay, so writing these books, you get this idea. How do you go about writing a book?
Yeah, it's something. It's you first you have to have the passion for it. I mean, it's a
Right.
huge commitment. You have to really want to do it. Um, but like I said, the first book I was converting it from a screenplay. Now, the screenplay is very unique. You can only write what an audience can see. You can never write what a character's thinking about or anything that's off camera. You can only write what an audience can see.
Whoa.
So when I converted my 114-page screenplay into a 300-page book, it was like I thought it'd be easy. Like, oh well, shit, I got this roadmap of the screenplay. It'll be cakewalk. I'll do it in a couple weeks. No, it took me 8 months because
Wow.
so much to it. And I ended up at first I hated it because I just was so frustrated by the process. But I ended up loving the idea that I could suddenly describe to the audience what these characters were thinking about, and I couldn't
Right.
do that before. So I ended up adding 3 more chapters and taking the story in a little bit different direction and making our hero Jake suffer a little more, unfortunately, because you have to make the hero suffer,
Yeah, of course.
and so this poor kid has to go through quite a bit.
So, okay, now this started off as a screenplay.
Yes.
So I know you pretty much broke down the difference in the screenplay and the book, because the screenplay is only what we can see, and the book is kind of just giving the whole picture. But what's easier? What's easier to write?
That's a good point. There's pros and cons to both. I mean, with a screenplay, you're super structured. You cannot make your script longer than 120 pages max unless you're a well-known writer. Then
Wait, you can't make your script more than 120 pages on a screenplay?
yeah,
But
because
on the screenplay, aren't you just you're describing like there's a dog walking on the street, it's a dark day, but you can only do 120 pages?
exactly, because the way it translates is to one page equals 1 minute of film. So
Whoa.
the standard becomes okay. Then 120 pages, that's 2 hours, and they don't want any more than that. Now horror movies and comedies are typically about 90 pages, but you have to stick to that, or they will just not read your script and toss it out. It's crazy.
How is that possible? So because I'm trying to think. 1 minute equals one page. So you're doing 120 pages, which is 120 minutes. But within that one page, you have to make the scene and the dialogue.
Yeah, the whole thing. So it's definitely a discipline that takes years to really kind of feel comfortable with.
Right.
But what I like about it is because the structure's there, it's kind of easy because you can say, okay, my character is only going to say these things. I don't have to get into the details of what's in their heads and all this stuff. So it's kind of easier in that way. But on the flip side, you've got the limitations of the page count and a lot of rules. But with novels, the easy part is I can write whatever the hell I want and make it as long as I want,
Right.
as long as it's good and streamlined and not full of filler. But if
Mhm.
I'm free to do whatever I want. But at the same time, the downside to novels is it takes a hell of a lot longer.
Right.
Funny story about the third book. Okay, so
Mhm.
the first book took me 8 months to write, and that was using the blueprint of the screenplay. Second book, I started it during the pandemic, and it took me 7 months to write, but I had no screenplay for it. I just had the outline. So that took me 7 months. And at that time, in January of 2021, this year,
Mhm.
both books were turned in. My publisher was going to do them, release them in May, and everything was set. Well, they came at me in January and said, "Hey, we had a sudden opening for November publication. If you have a book to give us by March 1st, we'll publish it." And I said, "Well, I got an outline for book 3, but I haven't written a single word." And they said, "Well, if you can write an entire book in 6 weeks, we'll publish it." And so I foolishly said yes. And let me tell you, it was brutal. I mean, luckily I had some vacation time from work built up. I took all that time. My wife cleared our schedules so I could write 24 hours a day, all the day long. And I managed to get in 6 weeks write the longest book in the series and do a complete rewrite of it as well.
Wait,
And
in 6 weeks?
yeah, dude, I wrote the whole thing in 6 weeks. Well, I wrote it twice in 6 weeks. It was crazy. The first draft took me about 4 weeks. I have a professional editor that I use, and
I was gonna ask you about okay.
best money I ever spent is getting a pro editor.
Yeah.
So she agreed to bump my book up to #1 on her slate. I sent it to her, and less than a week later, she had edited the whole thing for me and sent it back. And I had just enough time to take her notes and incorporate that and make some changes. And I got it to my publisher on midnight of March 1st.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, it was hard, man. It was so hard.
So when you have an editor, does the editor obviously edits and does the edits, but do you have to go back and make those edits, or do they do the edits for you and you can just turn it in like that?
Yeah, no, they mark it in red. They have like their computer will add things
Okay.
lines, and she'll have suggestions for different ways to say things. It's pretty
Mhm.
cool. Still leaves it up to me to choose.
Right.
Also, she'll fix any kind of grammatical,
So when you're writing, you're writing, not thinking about the grammar. You're just kind of just writing.
yeah. I mean, I do my best to keep it structured, but yeah,
Mhm.
there's a saying that we use when you're writing your first draft. It's called the vomit draft because your goal is just to get it out there, just blah, just put it all,
Right.
get from start to finish, and then you can go back and fine tune it.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Wow. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah. So you start off with your edits using a sledgehammer. By the time you're down to your last edits, you're using a scalpel.
Mm. So how do you do you put a lot of thought, because you did this in 6 weeks, so did you have this story already forming in your head, or are you just kind of making it up as you go? And do you feel like, what's the word I'm looking for, like drawn in, like do you feel like you have a relationship with these characters? Because I know you said it was fun to write Sasha, so do you kind of put your mind into these characters, and since you have all this time set to do this, do you like become these people in a sense mentally, I guess?
In a way, yeah. I mean, I'm the kind of writer. There's two kinds of writers. There's ones who must outline everything, or else they get lost. And
Right.
kinds who just sort of fly by the seat of their pants and see what happens. I have to outline. I have to outline everything, or else I'll be completely lost. Like if I didn't have the third book outlined already, I would not have
Yeah.
told my publisher I could do it. But I do
Mm.
allow myself flexibility because sometimes things come up as you're writing.
Right.
That you think, oh wait, this would actually work better than my outline. So then you kind of adjust. And then yeah, I do find myself kind of connecting with the characters. I wouldn't say I become them, but I kind of put myself in their shoes. Like, what would I do in this circumstance if I was Sasha? Would I, kill these hundreds of people, or would I,
Mm.
that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of fun because you really sometimes they even surprise you with what the character decides to do.
So your publishing company asked you if there was more, but on this third one, did you write it as if it was going to end or if it was ending?
Well, I've grown up being a huge movie fan. Spielberg, George Lucas, all those guys, and so I wanted a satisfying ending to the book, but I always want to leave a little something that maybe it could continue.
Right.
So yeah, so when people read the third book, it definitely is a definitive ending. Like they could stop there and never read another Metcraft again.
Hmm.
But there's a little, there's something there that says, there could be more.
Now, thinking about this book, because I did my I was searching you up, you know what I mean? I went on Amazon and things like that, and
Stalker.
Audible. I know, right? So how does one, because I know that I'm a I like books, but I don't like reading them necessarily. And so when I was reading up on your book, and then I saw you have it Audible.
Yes.
How does one even do that? Because I was impressed. I'm telling you, man, I was very impressed. Look at you. I said, man, I told my girl, I was like, I'm actually honored to be interviewing this dude because I didn't realize the accolades you had, and because you come off very humble.
I
You
am
know,
humble. I just, I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy trying to do something.
and you're doing it. You are doing it. So who's that reading? Is that your wife reading?
No, that's I hired somebody. Well, it's kind of weird. There's a really cool website that Audible created called ACX,
Hmm.
and it's designed for free to connect authors' projects with narrators looking for work.
Wow.
And so you can post. What you do is you post your project, and if you got the book cover, you post that up, and then you describe what the book's about, and then you upload like 2 or 3 pages of audition
Hmm.
script, and you open it up, and then people will submit auditions they'll read those pages for you, and you can audition people, and it's phenomenal. It's amazing. And I was so lucky and grateful to get the narrator for the first book is Megan Kelly is her name.
Hmm.
She is an award-winning narrator, has been doing it over 10 years, and normally she doesn't do it the cheap way, which is basically there's 2 paths. You can do royalty share, which means I pay the narrator nothing up front, and we split all royalties forever.
From the book.
And
Okay.
a lot of beginning narrators do that because nobody can pay.
Right.
The other option is to just pay the narrator completely up front, but they get no profits.
Okay.
So I had no money. I didn't have $3,000 to spare.
Right.
Oh, I was hoping just to get a royalty share. Well, Megan Kelly, by the time she came to me, was already famous enough in that world that she didn't have to do royalty share anymore. She usually commands money, but she said she's trying to up her science fiction roster, her resume of science fiction reading, and so she said she liked the idea, so she was going to do mine for a royalty share. I was
Nice.
so fortunate because she killed it. Did you listen to the sample of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I did. I was so happy with her.
That's why I was amazed because I would never think to even try to do that. That is the most, I think, smart thing because, like I said, I'm a person who, like, I'm very into like space and astrophysics, so I like a lot of Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh,
But
cool.
I will just purchase his audiobooks, and I'm just an audiobook kind of person. Now, I know we got about like 20 minutes. Any last words on Metcraft, and do you want to tell the people where they can find Metcraft?
Absolutely. Metcraft is kind of, the main characters are kind of teenagers, but it's not a YA book. It's honest. If I'm being honest, it's far too violent for that.
Mm.
It's definitely adult oriented. It can be found on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Target website, the Walmart website, and indie bookstores in your area. Some Barnes and Noble in your area. In fact, if you go into any Barnes and Noble and ask them for it, if they don't have it, they'll order it for you.
Oh, nice.
That'll be in store. Let me show off the covers real quick.
Yeah, do it.
My son's 27. He's a digital artist, and he did all the covers for me for free. So I was like, oh, that saved me
Nice.
a couple $1,000. But anyway, here's the cover to Metcraft.
Okay.
It's like liquid coming out of the hand.
Yeah.
And then here's the cover to the second book, Metcraft Disruption.
Oh, okay. So the first one is him discovering. The second one is it taking over him. Yeah, consuming him.
The last book is Metcraft Cataclysm.
And that's the world. The world is
that's the nanotech kind of dissolving.
Yeah. Wow.
But he did all 3 covers for me. Yeah, and it's good to have connections like that.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I invite everyone to check out all my all my social media. I love engaging with people, talk about any topics, a lot of geek stuff, sci-fi stuff. I love engaging and having conversations. So please, anybody come out and hit me up and chit chat. We'll talk about stuff.
Now, this topic, I'm excited about this. We were talking behind the scenes about little things to talk about. And I remember reading up on your website, BrianFitzpatrick.com, right?
BrianFitzpatrickBooks.com.
Brian Fitzpatrick books with an S?
Yep.
Books.com. And I saw it say paranormal investigator.
Yes, that is a hobby my wife and I have done for about 12 years now. And
now, see, I Over the years, as I've gotten older, I'm 35 now. I don't know if you know creepy pasta. I'm into a lot of creepy pastas and stuff. And when I think of paranormal investigations, I think of like the people that you see on TV that are in the night vision cameras and they're walking through a haunted house or something, or
Yeah.
maybe even like some type of exorcism thing. Now, before we get into that, I want to ask you, since you're a paranormal investigator, like, do you have trouble sleeping at night? Do you ever get like creeped out by doing this?
Not at all. That's the thing. It's very strange. My experience has been okay. First of all, my wife and I come into it, any investigation we do, as skeptics.
Mm-hmm.
We bring a lot of equipment in, and if we catch something on audio or video or any way, shape, or form, we always try and find a way to debunk it. We always, try and
Right.
find a way that we can prove it was something logical. Oh, that was the wind, or that was a creak in the floor, or something. We always try to prove
Right.
it. Right. If we can't, and it's still something really cool, we'll kind of get excited. Then we're like, well, I think we may have caught something paranormal, but we'll study it as much as we can.
Right.
But it's just something what my wife and I want answers. We kind of are agnostic in our spiritual beliefs, and we think
Mm-hmm.
there definitely could be something after this life. So we kind of got into it initially with the idea of trying to prove life after death. And I would say that we've done a pretty good job on as far as our own evidence gathering. I've learned all these years that there could be spirits who are angry or confused or scared or friendly, but they're all just people. So
Right.
far, I've never encountered anything else but people in various states of distress or joy.
So you've made some encounters.
Oh yeah, we've had some stuff. Nothing crazy like some of the shows say, "Oh, I saw an apparition." I've never seen an apparition, but we have had really interesting communications and got some really really good audio and some good video evidence of things.
Where are you going to do these things?
Well, the most recent one we went to, we got onto the famous Star of India vessel. It's a ship docked in San Diego. Was built in 1863. In fact, I think Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters both did that ship once. But this is my third time. This is our third time doing that ship, and it's amazing because when you pay a little money, they lock you on the boat and you stay there all night, and there's no supervisor or
You
guard.
did that
Yeah, we did that just 2 weeks ago with two other people. So it's not just four of us
on a
on
ship?
a haunted ship.
Like how big are we talking?
This ship is huge. It is 3 levels deep, and I don't know, maybe over 100 feet long. It's big, and it is an awesome even without the paranormal stuff, just the historical aspects.
Yeah.
It is so fun to explore because you're by yourself. It's dark. You got all
So
this cool
there's no
stuff.
power.
They got power, but they'll ask you when they come on, which lights do you want on, which lights do you want off. And so we have them do almost completely dark. And we have some lights on so we can see where we're going on some stairs and stuff. But other than that, it's dark.
Wow.
And their activity, you'll get things from, we have devices that if there's a shift in electromagnetic energy, the device will go off like with lights or sound. And things will move. We'll hear shuffling. We'll hear loud bangs from nowhere. My favorite is hearing boots walking across the floor near us, and there's nobody there. That's always a good one.
You say your favorite?
That's a good one.
It doesn't these things don't scare you?
No, I mean after this many years, it doesn't scare me. It gets me kind of excited and energized. And I never feel like I have yet to feel a negative or like quote unquote evil thing. I've never encountered that. Now I purposely don't go to places that those kind of things might happen.
Right.
Like I don't think I would ever want to investigate a prison. They
Right,
would
yeah.
you would get a ton of activity, but the negativity there would be overwhelming, I think.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to risk bringing something a little home with me,
Right. Do y'all travel and do y'all travel? My first question.
Not for this. We haven't yet. We'll take our paranormal stuff with us if we're already going on a trip. But I have not spent money and traveled to do a trip yet.
Okay.
But
I was my family is from like Dominica and the Virgin Islands and stuff, and I was living in the Virgin Islands a couple years back, and they say that there's just a lot of ghost activity on the island because of like slaves and stuff like that. So I
yeah,
was just saying that maybe that's somewhere you should go.
I was there on vacation once, St.
Mm,
Thomas, St. Martin, and I can see how there could be a lot of activity there.
yeah.
Given the history and the unfortunately the bloody history, it might end up being kind of a negative experience. So as far as,
Mm.
but then again, sometimes spirits just want to say their piece. Sometimes they just have to say something, and looking for somebody to hear them.
So when they say something, do they leave after that, or do they just say it to the next person that comes along?
That's a really good question. I wouldn't even know the answer to that, except that I have been to like Star of India. I've been there 3 times, and I
Mm,
feel like the same ghosts are still there.
mm,
So they may be content to be there because they maybe loved working on that ship or living on that ship.
right.
They're just like, yeah, I'm cool here.
So how did you get into that?
It was something my wife and I we dated a long time. We dated since teenage years, and
Wow.
we were always kind of into it. Just the idea of ghosts. This is back before there were any ghost hunting shows,
Right.
and I didn't even know you could do it. I mean, when the movie Ghostbusters came out, I thought, wow, that'd be cool if you could really do that. But
Yeah.
nobody even heard of such a thing. And then the original Ghost Hunters came on. That was those two guys who were plumbers by day, and then at night they would do ghost hunts with a crew.
Mm,
They were very mellow. They weren't theatrical or dramatic at all. They would, in fact, some episodes they wouldn't get any evidence.
right.
They were just honest about it. And they had all these devices and techniques. And so my wife and I were like, well, let's look into that stuff. And that was all she wrote. And
Yeah.
as soon as we started doing that and hooked up with a couple groups, we were done. We love it.
So how often do you do it?
During the pandemic, we didn't do it at all. There was no place we felt we could go and safely do. There's some outdoor places, but they don't. The outdoor places never yield very much good stuff. So
Hmm.
sort of put it all on hold. But when let's say there's no pandemic going on, we were going maybe 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah.
We were in with a new group now. We hope to do it a lot more often.
You said that the outside is not as good as the inside. Why do you think that is?
Not that there's less activity, but I think because of all the environmental noises, it
Mm,
disrupt your evidence. So you may get a ghost saying something to you, but you'll never hear it because there's birds and traffic and a lot of nonsense going on.
yeah.
So
Okay. Wow.
that is
So
good.
what do you use to the indicators, I guess?
Oh yeah, there's a device. Some of the basic ones are, of course, a digital recorder that picks up good sound. There's a thing called a K2 meter, which is a electromagnetic detector, and it has like different lights. It has an array of lights that go from green to red in color. And like if a spirit gets closer, the closer it gets, the more lights come on.
Wow.
And those are like the basic tools. But then we've got these flashlights that are mag lights, the kind you unscrew and screw to turn them on. If you unscrew them just to the point of almost being connected, sometimes a spirit, if you explain it to them, can just sort of touch the device, and the light will come on. It'll make the connection. It'll finish the connection.
Mm,
And it's kind of a crapshoot because you don't know if it's, first you don't know if it's random. The lights are
yeah.
randomly connecting. But if you are able to establish a yes no question and answer situation, and if they do it long enough on cue, then you can kind of say, okay, this is actually happening. Our best one time we did a session that was an hour and 10 minutes of a ghost answering our questions with yes no on cue. Like we'd ask a question, a few seconds later it would answer either yes or no, and it did that for over an hour. And
Really?
and so there's no way that could be random environmental stuff.
How how does that make you feel? Because I feel like if I was there, I would be into it, and then once the I guess the ghost starts interacting with me, I would be like maybe creep the fuck out a little bit.
Yeah, there are times, I won't deny, there are times when you feel a little nervous. Like we did a theater, in the city of Ontario out here in
Mm,
California called the Granada Theater. We did an overnight, and there was like 5 of us in this giant, giant theater. And there were some hallways when I was setting up equipment and I was by myself. There were a couple times when I got I got those chills and little, goosebumps on the back of my neck. I'm like, okay, there's something near me. And when you're alone, you're not as brave. You're like, that feel uncomfortable. And so then you kind of find your crew and rejoin and say, hey, there was something over there. But for the most part, I don't get creeped out.
So
Not anymore.
You never have trouble sleeping. You never think like maybe something came back with me.
Nah, no. There's some people like believe they employ a Native American method to help spirits leave your area. If they burn sage, like a little packet of sage, and you light it on fire, then you smudge it, and then let it smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And sage is supposed to cleanse you and your area of spirits.
Right.
And I've seen enough of it that I tend to believe that it can help. So that if we go to a place that we're not familiar with, or we're not familiar with the spirits, we'll sage everybody in the group when we're done.
Yeah.
And we'll tell them, hey, you do not have permission to follow us. And I've never ever once had an experience where anything followed us.
Wow.
So okay. I sleep okay at night.
Well, what type of questions do you ask?
A lot of it is getting to know first, is anybody there with us? Mm-hmm. Start with that, and then if you establish that there's something there, then it's like, are you male, female, adult, or child? And then you start trying to get into their story, like you have any messages you'd like to say, or how did you end up here? We try and be conversational. If it's a place that is investigated a lot, like Star of India, the ship, mm-hmm. we try not to ask the same old boring questions, because I'm sure they get asked the same questions by every investigating team. So we'll throw some zingers in there, like, oh, what was your favorite song in your time, or what year do you think it is? Or we'll even try and give them an update. Like when we were on Star of India, we've learned those spirits are intellectual spirits, where they are aware of people, and they're aware, and they'll interact because they know people are there.
Right.
So we were one of the first people to ever come on the ship after it opened up after the pandemic. So the ghosts didn't have any visitors for like a year and a half.
Right.
But we came on and we were saying, there's a reason why nobody came to see you. And we explained about the pandemic and see if we can get a reaction out of that. We try almost anything to get a reaction, except we don't antagonize. Some of these shows, you'll see them kind of try and get the ghost mad and riled up.
Right. Yeah.
I hate that. It's like, you wouldn't do that to somebody in real life, so these are just people. So why be rude?
Do you think ghosts, like on the ship, do you think there's multiple ghosts on the ship?
Oh yeah, there's definitely at least 3 or 4.
So do you think they interact with each other?
That's a good question. I really don't know. I'd like to think they would. It would be awfully kind of strange and lonely if they didn't.
Right.
Like, I wonder, are they even aware of each other? Because every ghost we encounter is in a different spot of the ship. They don't seem to wander out of an area. And it'd be kind of sad to think if they're just in that spot by themselves.
Yeah, just forever.
So I would hope that they interact.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. We have about 5 more minutes. Oh. I do want you to explain to me a little bit about author marketing.
Oh yeah.
What before you start on that, how did you even get a publisher?
Oh yeah, that was it was actually easier than I thought it would be. There's a great website for any authors who want to get a publisher or an agent for their books. There's a website called Query Tracker, QUERY tracker.com. It's free to use, and it's a database of hundreds and hundreds of agents and publishers, and ranging from big ones to the little guys to everything in between. And you create like a pitch, like a 1-page here's who I am, here's what I do, and I think I would make a good fit with you. And you just start querying them out, and the website has a database that lets you keep track of who you've submitted to, if they've responded, and what their response was. So I created something I thought was pretty good, and I submitted it to what was it? I wanted to go small at first just to experiment. I submitted to 8 agents and 10 publishers right off the bat. And this is like, okay, let's see what happens. I got 4 agent rejections. No, I apologize. All 8 of the agents rejected me. And the 3 publishers rejected me. And on the 4th one was a company in Texas
Hey,
Austin, Texas, I think.
that's where I'm at.
Yeah, exactly. Called Black Rose Writing.
Okay.
And they were actually high on my list of people I wanted because of their reputation. And they accepted me. They said, "Yeah, I would send us your book. We'll check it out." And at that time I was trying to publish the sequel
Right.
because the first one had already been published by a different publisher that I didn't want to go with again. So they loved the sequel, and they said, "Well, we not only want to publish your sequel, but we also want to re-release your first one."
Wow.
Fortunately, the timing was right. I had just gotten the rights back to that book, so I was free to
Nice.
do with it whatever I wanted. And I said, "Sure, you guys can do that." And oh, my lights just went.
I was gonna say, did your lights go off, or is that some paranormal shit going on?
No, it's fine. I think someone in the house triggered a pop the fuse or something, and it'll be back on in a minute. So, Black Rose Writing wanted to publish both books, and I was like, "Yes, please!" And their contract was really good, and they have been amazing. So that was how I got the publisher. Now, marketing, man, a lot of authors have the same thing, same kind of attitude, and I had it too. They just want to write the books. They don't want to deal with the marketing and the advertising and all that stuff. But
Right.
I realize that's really, writing is only like 10%. You've got to spend 90% building your brand yourself and putting the book out there. If you want people to read your book, you have to get serious and try and get people to read your book. It's like you can't just write the book and hope people read it. I am determined. There it is. I'm determined to build a career out of this. And I had to look myself in the mirror one day because I was shy. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to talk about, promote myself. It sounds awful. It sounds so arrogant. But if you want to, I had to look myself in the mirror and say, look, do you want to make a career out of this or don't you? And I had to put on my big boy pants and decide I need to go all in. And so I just started doing everything, created this is way back in the day, created all my social media accounts and linked them all together and just stopped being afraid to talk about what I wrote. Yeah. And I'm like you said, I'm a humble guy. I don't say, yeah, I'm the best, I'm the shit. No, I just say, here's what I wrote. I invite you to check it out. And then I do a lot of engagement. Like people ask questions and I'll have conversations about either my books or other people's books. I love talking about movies, love movies. I'll talk to you about any movie. And so I just did that and sort of organically and naturally the audiences started coming, and I built across all my social media. I'm up to about 11, 12,000 followers or friends. But that, came after years and years of just talking with people.
Right.
As far as like marketing though, directly, I went with like Facebook ads. I tried Twitter ads, which didn't help me at all. Instagram ads, they're pretty good because now Facebook ads and Instagram ads are linked together.
Okay.
Amazon ads, I was terrible at those. I know they're super effective, but I was no good at writing them.
What's Amazon ads? Like, how does that work?
If you're surfing on Amazon for shopping stuff, you get like little pop-ups on the side screen, and it'll say, "Oh, if you like this, you'll like this book."
Okay.
Too. So they slip it in, or they'll drop an email to people if they think you'll like it. If let's say you've bought other sci-fi books,
right?
They'll send you, "Hey, check this one out," and that's all you pay for that stuff.
Okay.
And I was terrible at it, but my publisher, thank God, is really good at it, and they've done wonders with it. In fact, they told me they were so happy with the results of the ad campaign that I paid them to do that they kept it going with their own money. And he told me a month ago that they've dropped over $2,000 of their own money into ad campaigns for my books. I was shocked. They didn't tell me they were going to do that.
Wow, that's good.
Because most publishers now don't have any budget for that kind of stuff.
Right.
So
so that says something about you.
It does. I was really, really flattered and honored by that. But for authors, it's all about if you can be live. If you can do book signings, if you can do any kind of get a table at a book festival or any kind of festival that seems appropriate for your book, that's the best thing to do. Getting out there in front of people and just saying, "Hey, this is what I wrote," and talk about it.
Yeah.
A lot of authors are just too nervous to do that, but you have to.
Yeah. So are you going on like a book tour for the third book?
No, maybe a virtual one. They have virtual book tours, which are amazing now. And I'm thinking about investing in that. They cost a little bit of money, but you can get a good deal for like $100. You can get like 15 book stops. You know, you'll do like podcasts, or if you're local, you'll do in-person events, and it's kind of cool. But it was tough during the pandemic to do a live event because no bookstores were having people. So I was like, well, shit.
Do you reach out to internationally?
Some. I do have some connections in England. I know people personally in England where I can get some stuff going, but for some reason, the first book sold really, really well in Australia and Germany.
Wow.
And a little bit in Japan.
Wow.
And I even had like a dozen customers in Russia. I'm like,
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was like, I didn't even advertise. I didn't even push it for those areas.
Yeah. Wow.
Sometimes the word spreads. You just never know.
Well, so this is is this correct spelling? Brian Fitzpatrickbooks.com?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. The Metcraft series on there. Metcraft, the third book came out last week, but you have all of them for sale.
Yeah,
and they're all on Amazon, and they're all Audible too, are they?
No, in fact, I was just going to tell you about that too. I forgot about that. I just got a narrator for books 2 and 3, and she's working on them right now. So I'd say by January, both the other 2 books will be out. She sounds amazing. I couldn't get the same narrator because she now only does the upfront pay thing. So I was scouting out for a narrator, and an actress friend of mine who is actually a musician too. She reached out. We've been friends for years. She said, "Hey, I want to audition. I want to take a shot at it." I said, "Oh, yeah, sure, hell yeah, let's do it." And she sounded amazing.
Wow.
So she's killing it. So she sent me 2 chapters the other day of her narrating, and it's spot on.
That's cool.
So look for those soon. Those will be out probably, like I said, January.
Sounds good. And I guess tell the people how they can find you, where they can find you.
Oh yeah, sure. You can look me up on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under the @ author Brian Fitzpatrick. So if you or even just Brian Fitzpatrick, and I'll come up on all those things straight up. And I engage on all 3 places.
Sounds good. And last words for aspiring authors.
Oh, this is great. This goes for any creative, anybody doing anything creative. What got me through is 2 things: hope and perseverance. They go together. You know, without the hope, I wouldn't persevere. And if I didn't persevere, I wouldn't have any hope.
Wow. Nicely said. That's nicely said. I want to thank you. I really, really want to thank you for being on here. I know you have a busy schedule today. I know you have another interview after this. I want to thank you for taking the time and letting me be the first to interview you today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome to be on your show. I've caught a lot of your episodes, and they're awesome. And I was like, when you wanted to reach out to me and do this, I was like, hell yeah, let's do this.
Thank you.
So in fact, let's do it again when I got something else to talk about.
For sure. We will. I'm actually going to keep in touch with you because I like what you're doing. I like your Instagram, looks beautiful, and I'm definitely going to keep in touch with you. And I'm going to support you on this book.
Oh, awesome. Hey, and reach out to me offline. We'll talk about this.
Got you, for sure.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, man. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you so much. Take care.
Yes, sir. Man, thank y'all. Brian Fitzpatrick. Go get Metcraft book. And I hope he makes some paranormal investigation videos. I cannot talk tonight. But I want to thank y'all for watching my show. Make sure y'all check out BrianFitzpatrickBooks.com. Make sure you go to my sponsor, www.penmanshipclothing.com, and enter Moke 20 for 20% discount. I will see y'all next week.